Okay, in this video we're going to do a tutorial of Lab 1. So I'm going to go over everything in Lab 1, so there should be no reason anyone can't get 100% here. Alright, so we go to the course website, open up Chrome, cs151, Labs, Lab 1. Alright. So to complete this lab, you will be creating a directory in your home folder on the CS server, and it's going to be called Labs. So anytime you see anything that has this black background, we're talking about something specific in which we're communicating with the computer. Okay, so this is the exact name of the thing that we're creating. We're creating a directory, and it's called Labs. And then once that directory is created, we're going to create a directory inside of that called Lab 1. Notice the attention to detail is very important here. There's no space, and it's lowercase lab. Okay, if you misname this, you will not get credit for any of this lab. It's very important, and this isn't just something where the instructor's being rude or mean. This is something that is very, very common in computer science, and you have to start getting familiar with it because it's everywhere. Alright, so make sure the naming is exactly right. The directory must exist and must be named exactly as specified. Alright, so this just kind of clarifies some of this. Lab 1 with the space is different. These are all different values. Alright, things you can use for the assignment: you may use the notes, course website, any static resources on the internet, but no forums. You can't ask, if the forums, somebody else has asked the question, you can search it, but don't ask people on the internet for help. Okay, you have to do this all by yourself, but you can search the internet. Alright, and you can ask general questions on Mattermost chat, and I'll try to get to you, but you're not allowed to directly share what the answers are. Okay, so you can ask questions about how things work, or questions about high-level topics, but nothing specific about a particular question. Okay, so getting started here, the labs are partitioned into numbers. The first number usually has to do with a particular topic, and then at the bottom you'll have a grading portion about how that topic is graded. And then you'll have another topic, what you do, and then how that topic is graded. Okay, so first, Acl Permissions. Okay, so we're going to be creating a series of directories and files in this lab, and in order for me to grade your work, you will need to give my users permission to access your files. By default, Linux prevents users from accessing the files in each other's home directories. Alright, so basically you guys can't access each other's stuff, and that's a good thing. Alright, but in order for me to grade your work, I have to be able to access your stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is set the permissions. Okay, for the most part, these commands are outside the scope of this course, but I need you to do this so that way I can grade your stuff. Alright, so let's open up a terminal. Alright, if you are on a Mac, open up a terminal, or Windows, CYG Win, and we're going to log into the CS server. So we use the SSH command. Alright, the instructor account is cs151. You guys' account will have an additional 2 numbers, X and Y. Alright, and the remote machine we're trying to log into is the CS server, and that's located at cs.indstate.edu. Alright. Okay, so this is the instructor account. Now, I'm going to log into a second terminal window that is going to be like one of your accounts. It's going to be a student account, and it's going to be cs151-su19. The reason I'm logging into 2 accounts is to show you that I can access the student account from the instructor account. Alright, so I'm going to open up a new tab here. I've got 2 tabs, and I'm going to say SSH cs151-00 at cs.indstate.edu. Okay, so notice I'm in /u1/class cs151-00. That's my home directory. If I type print working directory, that's where I am. Over here, same thing. This is the instructor account, print working directory. We see it's in my command prompt as well. /u1 class cs151. Okay. If I type ls here, I can type ls ... which means look in the parent folder, and that's going to list all of these accounts. So we have cs151 That's the instructor account, and then this is the student account, and then these are all of your accounts. Alright, so now what I need to do is let's just see if I can look in my directory, my student directory. So I'm in my home directory. I go up one level to here where it has all of these directories listed, and I want to look inside cs151-su19. Okay, it says I cannot open the directory, permission denied. Okay, so that's the problem we're trying to fix here. So we're going to make it so I can see what's inside that directory. Alright, so I'm going to copy this command. I can right click and copy, or I can hit Control C. On a Mac it's Command C, and I can paste it into my terminal. On CYG-Win you might have to right click and paste. On Linux you can Shift Control V, and on Mac I think you can just hit Command V and it will paste. Alright, so here are the permissions that I'm setting. So I'm allowing the LMA user to read and execute items in my home directory. Okay, so that's what this is saying. This, as I said before, this command is a little outside the scope of the course, but I need you to set it up initially. So we set that, and we copy the next one. Copy. Paste. Alright. Now to test to see if this is working, we can run this command. Alright, so the owner of this directory, this is the home directory, is cs151-su19, that's correct, and I've allowed access to the instructor account and my other account. Alright, now to test to see if this has worked, previously on the instructor account I tried ls, and I tried to go into the student account, and I got denied. So if I press the up arrow, I'm going to run the exact same command again, and I'll press enter. Now I can see it. So I now have permission to access things in this student directory. Alright, so that's the first part of the assignment, right? And if I have access, you get 1 point, but actually the grading is a little bit more, because if you don't have access, then I can't grade your stuff and you get a 0. Alright, so this one's kind of important, but you get a bonus point just for doing it. Alright, so that's step 1. Now we're in topic number 2. So we need to create a directory in our home folder. Okay, so I'm in my student account, ls, we have a desktop folder. I need to create a folder or a directory called labs. So to create a directory, we say mkdir and then the name of the directory we want to create. Alright, mkdir. Now here I've specified the tilde operator, which is my home directory /labs. That makes it so I can execute this command no matter where my terminal is located. Alright, but since I'm already located in home, I can also just do labs. If I type ls, now we see labs is created. Okay, if I was in a different directory, let's say we go to the root of the file system. Okay, so these are the directories in the root of the file system. If I tried to make dir labs, that's not correct. I don't have permission to create anything in this directory anyway. Okay, so if I wanted to create it in my home folder, I would have to do something like this. Alright, now I've already created this directory, so when I run this command, it'll say it already exists. So the directory already exists. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create one inside of that called lab1. No spaces, all lowercase. Alright, notice I'm still in the root directory / so I have to add this tilde. That means my home directory. Look in the labs directory, and inside of labs is where I want you to create this new directory. We're making a directory, mkdir. Alright, so I can change directory, the CD, and I want to go to my home folder. We see the command prompt changed. That's my current location. I have labs. I can use the ls command, and I want to see what's inside the labs folder. If I type ls by itself, it shows me what's inside of the folder I'm currently working in, which is my home directory. Or I can type ls with an argument and see what's inside of that directory. We have lab1, and then I can see what's inside of lab1. Okay, so that's empty. So we've successfully created these directories. Right, and I go on a little bit here about the difference between an absolute path. A path that has the tilde in front of it is sort of an absolute path. It's a shortcut for the absolute path because the tilde represents an absolute path to your home directory and then everything after it. Okay, so it's sort of like an absolute path. All right, and a relative path is always just relative to wherever you're located in your terminal shell. Okay, so if I change directories here to labs/lab1, labs is relative to my home directory because I have a labs directory in my home directory. Okay, so if I make another directory in here, foo, this is relative to my current directory. So when I make that directory, now I have a folder in here called foo. Alright, so let's we can remove directories with this command, the rm command that removes directories and files. To remove a directory, though, you need special options. -rf. The R makes it recurse into the folder and delete everything inside of the folder if it has anything inside. And then the F is an option that basically, normally it will ask you for every single item in the folder just as a safety measure, but the F prevents it from asking all that, so it just automatically deletes it. So be careful with this command because you can delete all of your work. There's no recycle bin. Okay, so once you remove something, it's gone. Okay, so this is remove-rf. Sometimes it's called rimraf. Alright, so you have to rimraf the foo directory. Right, so we didn't need to make the foo directory. I was just showing you how to make something inside of our labs directory. Okay, so at any rate, now I have created labs/lab1, and my terminal shell, the command prompt, is working in the current working directory. So that's inside of my home folder, then labs, then lab1. Okay, and if I want to change my directory, I do cd. cd tilde takes me home, cd labs, cd lab1. Okay, so you need to get really used to typing ls all the time and typing cd .. that goes up one directory. You type ls, now I'm in labs, cd .. takes me up, and now I'm in home again. Alright, so cd labs, cd lab1. Get very familiar with these because you're going to use these commands constantly. Alright, so the grading here, the directory labs exists and directory labs/lab1 exists. So 2 points there. Okay, so now we're going to start working with files. This is the third topic. So we're going to make a file name, Arthur C. Clarke laws.txt. Now notice the capitalization. Okay, this is called camel casing. So there are many ways to name files. Okay, file names can include spaces, but file names with spaces are a little bit difficult to work with. All right, so oftentimes you'll see file names that are cased like this. So I can say file name.txt. That's camel casing. I can say file name with an underscore .txt. That's called snake case. I can say file name.txt with a hyphen, and that's called kebab case because it looks like a shish kebab. All right, it looks more like it when you have other stuff there. All right, and then similar to the camel case one, this is camel case, but Pascal case, just you capitalize the first one as well. So every word, if your file name has multiple words, this is Pascal case. Okay, so I can have a file, and this file is named using the Pascal case convention. All right, so you'll see those three casings a lot. Camel case, Pascal case, snake case is the underscore, and kebab case is the hyphen. All right, so we have named this file in camel case, and this is all to just help you get used to working with files. All right, so create a file, and to create the file we can just use nano, right? Or we can create the file locally and then move the file over. All right, first let's try it with nano. So I can say nano, and I want to create the file Arthur C. Clarke laws.txt. Now instead of typing it in like that, since the naming is so important, I might try to highlight it, copy it, and I'll go back here and then I'll paste it instead, just to make sure that it's correct. Alright, so I have opened up nano, and we see we have this file we're working in. Alright, so what I need to put into this file is all of this stuff. I've intentionally added a fair amount of stuff here so you won't be able to type it out very easily. I want you to learn how to copy and paste. It's critical. Alright, so you copy, you might right click and click paste, or use the shortcuts. It's important that you start learning all of the shortcuts. Alright, so I've pasted all of this. I hit Control O, which we talked about in nano, means write out. It's like saving a file. We're writing out the data to the disk. And then Control X. So I type ls. We now have a file in here called Arthur C. Clarke Laws. And cat. Okay. Now, there wasn't a new line at the end of this file, so my command prompt has printed out after all the contents of the cat command, which is fine. Alright, if we wanted to fix that, we could go in, do nano, and then at the end of this line, we could just press enter and add a new line. Control O, save, Control X, there we go. Now, when we cat it, it's good. So as a general rule, it's good to add a new line character at the end of all of your files. You don't have to, but it's kind of a standard practice, and it's for things like that. When you print out what's in the file, if you don't have a new line, then the prompt gets a little screwy. Alright. So Arthur C. Clarke, this is one of my favorites, specifically item number 3, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. You think about that, that's kind of true. Everybody has these phones and all of these things. Nobody really knows how they work, or most people don't anyway. It's just kind of magic crystal balls, right? That was just kind of interesting. But anyway, we have learned how to copy and paste and create files, which is the important thing here. We have a file in there. Okay, so the grading here, does the file exist in the right location, and is it named correctly? And then the file contents is the exact text. Okay, if you have a new line character at the bottom or several new line characters, that's fine, as long as everything, this main body, is exactly the same, including one new line character between each line. Okay, so following these instructions throughout these labs is very important. Make sure you do everything exactly the same. If I have a space here, you need to add a space there, right? If I have 2 new line characters, you need to have 2 new line characters. That sort of stuff becomes very important in computer science. Okay, so we did this using nano. Now let's just remove the file, and we'll do this using the FTP client. All right, so to remove a file, remember we used rimraf to remove the directory. To remove a file, we don't need the -rf. Okay, we just need remove and then the name of the file. Okay, so notice when I typed ls, I only have one file in here. So I can type rm and then a to try to type out a file name, and as soon as I hit tab, there's only one file in here that starts with an A, and so it knows which file I'm talking about, and it'll just auto-complete it. Alright, so using that tab autocomplete is going to be very critical too. Practice using that. Practice using all of these shortcuts, because you will use them over and over and over again, and it will really help you speed through these assignments as well. Okay, so we're going to remove that. Now you see how it's asking me if I want to remove the file. This is a safety measure, right? So if I say no, it still exists, right? So that's what the -F does. It forces it, so that way it won't ask you. So if I remove it, and now it's not going to ask me, it's just going to go ahead and remove it. So I type ls, I get no output. That means there's nothing in this directory. Alright, so now you guys should all have a folder somewhere where you put cs151 stuff. Okay, and we are going to create a new file here, new document. So usually on most file browsers you can right click and go to new document, or I could use the terminal and use any of my terminal commands. I've got a new terminal window here, and I'll go to my home directory, desktop, and there's cs151, the folder I just created on my desktop, and I could create a file with nano here on a Mac OS or Linux. Okay, so there's a number of ways to create files, but usually on most file browsers there's a way, if you right click, you can create a new document. Alright, so I want to rename this, and this is our Arthur C. Clarke, so I want to make sure I copy that correctly. Okay, and when you copy and paste, make sure you don't get an extra space at the beginning or end, right? Because you could have a file that starts with a space. Be careful about that. Okay, now I can use whatever text editor I want. Eventually I'm going to want people to install Atom. It's a really good text editor, but the default one for Ubuntu is called gedit. For Windows there's Notepad. The Mac and Windows default text editors are pretty terrible, so you're going to want to get something else. You can get gedit for Windows. I think you can get it from Mac, but I strongly recommend getting Atom, and we'll have a tutorial on that as well. So anyway, we have this file open and it's empty, and so now I want to copy and paste everything from here. Copy, paste. I'm going to add my new line character. Control S saves in most text editors, and that's common. Control S is going to be one you're going to want to remember. So Control S to save it. And when I type something, we see this little asterisk. That means it's modified. All right. And if I hit Control S, then it would save it. All right. So we have this file. Now we need to move this to the CS server. Okay. So this is an FTP program like FileZilla. You guys, FileZilla is a little bit easier. I'm using this for different reasons, but they're all mostly the same. So you type in the host name, cs.indstate.edu. The port number is 22. We want cs151, and this is my student user account, which is 00. And I want to put in my password. And then for this one, this is GFTP. You also need to specify the protocol as SSH2. You don't need to do that in FileZilla, which is one of the reasons I recommend you guys using that one. It's just one less thing to remember. Alright, so then I connect. And here we see I have my labs folder. I have lab1. And then on the left-hand side, that's my local machine. So I want to go to my desktop, CS151, and there we are, Arthur C. Clarke laws. Now I can just click on this and move it over. Now it shows up there. Now let's look in our terminal and see. If I type ls, sure enough, it's back. Alright. So that concludes section 3. Now section 4 is the one where it starts to get a little bit interesting. For this one, we're going to be using the echo command to create some different files. Okay, so let's just look at the echo command by itself right now. If I type echo, hi, whatever I put in quotes, it spits out to standard output. Remember, standard output is anything that gets printed out to the terminal for the most part. That's how you can think of it anyway. It's a channel, and when I run a command, I can output data to this channel, and generally when you run that command, the standard output is displayed on the terminal. Okay. There are some special variables in the command line. So user is a variable, and if I want to reference that variable, I have to use this $sign. So whenever you see a $sign in a terminal command, it's referencing a variable on the shell. Okay, so hi there user, hi there cs151-su19. So my username is cs151-su19. So if you type this in, it's going to be your username. Okay, there's a few other ones that are kind of useful. Home, so that prints out my home directory, and you see how this variable, this is really the same thing as the tilde character. Okay, in terms of commands, right? So basically when you type the tilde command, it's sort of like typing out this whole variable. Okay, so I could say cd home, and you see that's taken me to my home directory. That's the same as saying cd tilde. Alright, so the echo command just prints out whatever you type in the quotes, but it also, if you type in a reference to a variable, it will take the value of that variable and print it out. Okay, so you can look at all the different variables you have on the system using the env command. It stands for environment, and these are all the different variables that are defined. Okay, so you've got user, home, path is locations to all the directories where you might have executable files, what shell you're using, lots of different things here. Most of this is outside the scope of this course, but just know that there are lots of different variables, and you can even create your own variables. Alright, so I can create a variable called foo and say that equals foo, and I can say echo what is foo. Oh, I gotta export it, I think. Well, let's not do that then. I'm using TC shell here, and I'm not that familiar with it. I normally use Z shell, and I think the syntax is a little bit different. So ignore that, but just know you can still reference variables that already exist using this syntax. So that prints out your home directory. Okay, so it's a $sign and then the name of the variable. Alright, so we have this echo command printing out to standard out. Now we can redirect that output to a file instead of printing it out on the terminal. Okay, so let's go back into our lab1 directory. So cd, change directory, and we need to make get used to running the ls command constantly whenever you do anything. So we want to echo first and last. So first and last is actually going to be your name. So echo. Right. We see that gets printed out to standard out in the terminal. Okay. So now we want to try to redirect that. Instead of going to the terminal, we want it to go to a file, and we want to call that me.txt. So we use this greater than character. So if I press up on the keyboard, it goes to my last command, and I want to use the greater than character. That's saying take the output of this command, everything beforehand, and instead of printing it to the terminal, I want to print it to a file. So me.txt. So notice it didn't print out Luke May this time. If I type ls, now I see we have a new file here called me.txt. If I use the cat command to see what's inside of that file, me.txt. Okay, so you see it's got Luke May inside there. Alright, so now we're going to add some more information, but we're going to use the double greater than symbol instead of just the single. The single greater than sign destroys whatever data existed in the file. So let's say I did echo foo and single, and I go me.txt. That's going to destroy whatever data was in me.txt and replace it with the output of this command, which should just be foo. So we still have the file. If I look and see what's inside with cat, now we see that Luke May has been replaced with foo. Alright. Now in this next one, what I want to do is I want to just add additional stuff. Okay, so I don't want to destroy the existing data, I just want to add data to it. That's where the double greater than comes in. Alright, so we have let's start over. We do Luke May, and I want to put that in me.txt. We look inside. Did it work? Yes, it did. Now I want to add additional information. What I'm adding is my email address, and I want to put that in there next, and then my CS account number. Alright, so I'm going to say echo. I got to put everything in quotes, so I make both of the quotes, and I say, technically you don't have to do this all the time, but it's easier and it's a better habit to just get into using the quotes. Alright, so I want to add my email address, which is luke.may@indstate.edu, and I want to append that double greater than into me.txt. Okay, type ls, files are the same. Now I just need to look at the content of me.txt. Now we see I've got my name and email address. Okay, so now I want to add one more thing. I want to add my CS account number. So this is cs151 and this is my student account. And I want to put that in me.txt. Type ls. The number of files has not changed, and I just want to look and see what's inside me.txt. So you use ls, you use cat, you use the cd command constantly. So get used to running these all the time. Sure enough, my file is correct now. I have the name, email address, and CS account. So we've looked at what's inside with cat. So now what we're going to do is make another file. So if I want to cat the contents, we see this is printing out to standard output. Instead, I can redirect that standard output to a new file that essentially copies the file. Okay, so cat me.txt, and I want the output of this command to go to a new file. This is going to be me2.txt. Now if I type ls, we see there's a new file here. Here's our original me.txt, and we have me2. If I cat me.txt, that's me2, it's the same as me. Okay, both of these look the same. Now we can try to verify that they're the same. There is a command called diff that shows you the differences between two files. What's the difference between me.txt and me2.txt? If there's no output, that means the two files are the same. Alright, so let's try to change one and see if they're different. Okay, so first we'll just copy me.txt, and we're going to make me3. Okay, so we did previously, we displayed the output of me.txt right up here and redirected that output to a file. That essentially is the same as copying the file. But there's also a command to just do that explicitly. The cp command stands for copy, and I want to copy this file. So I'm going to copy me.txt, that's our original, and I'm going to copy it to me3, because we already have a me2. It's me3.txt. Okay. Now if I type ls, now we see we have 3 files. cat me.txt, cat me2.txt, cat me3.txt. All of them seem to be the same. And they should be, because we just copied them. So now we're going to add some changes to me2 and me3, and then we're going to compare them. Alright, so here, echo me2. So we're going to add a line into me2. It's the double greater than sign. We're just adding one line at the bottom of this file that says me2. Now if I cat me2 and see what's inside, sure enough it's all the stuff before, but now I have me2 in there. So now I want to do the same thing with me3. Copy this command, paste. So I'm echoing me3, which means it's going to standard output, but instead of going to standard output, I'm redirecting that output to a file, and I'm appending it because I have double greater than. And then the end of the file, or the file that I'm appending it to, is me3.txt. So now we can say cat to look inside. Sure enough, that's right. Then we're going to add to both of these, we're going to add hello there. Okay, so we're just going to copy this command, same stuff. We can kind of go through this a little bit faster. And then copy this one. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what happens when two of the files are different. They have some similarities. The first part of the files are the same, but then we added different stuff. We added me2 to the me2.txt, and we added me3 to the me3.txt, and then we added a line that was the same to both of them. Okay, so we're going to copy this diff, paste it in here. Okay, so in the first file, me2.txt, it's saying the comparison, if you go from this file to this one, you have to remove this line, me2, and add this line, me3, which that is the differences between the two files. If I look at me2.txt, I need to remove that line, and if I look at me3, that means I would have to add that. Okay, so diff is a useful command to see how different files are, and you can use it when you're looking at, you might make a copy of a file when you're writing a program. You might have some functionality working to the program, but you want to try something, but you want to save where you are, so you'll make a copy of it. And then later you might want to go back and say, okay, how much did I change? What was different? You can use the diff command for that. Okay, so it's very common. So these are all very common utilities to use in Linux, and we're going to be using them a lot. Okay, so the grading on this one, if the file me.txt exists, you get a point. If it contains at least 3 lines, so if you have your name, your email address, and your CS account, all right, then you get a point. If it contains your exact email address, you get a point. If me2, if the file exists, you get a point. If me3.txt exists, you get a point. And then if all 3 of these files are different, meaning they do not contain the exact same information, then you get a point. So this is how I'm grading it. And this video demo that we're doing right now will appear under here soon. So there's no reason that everyone should not get 100% here. Okay, so we'll start off on a good note. You've got the homework set up, and you should all have an A+ on lab 1. And we'll move into other stuff in the upcoming week. I should have some more labs coming up, or lectures coming up. All right, so that's lab 1. Enjoy.